Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTGO Traders. My name is Tyrant, and this is Kumena, Tyrant of Orazca for Brawl. So we've done quite a few Brawl deck lists on the channel already, and I haven't hit the Merfolk yet, so we wanted to hit it today. This is Kumena, Tyrant of Orazca. If you guys aren't aware, Kumena is a new Merfolk from Realms of Ixalan. It's a 3-mana 2/4 legendary creature, Merfolk Shaman. Tap another untapped Merfolk you control. Kumena, Tyrant of Orazca can't be blocked. Tap 3 Merfolk you control. Draw a card, and then you can tap 5 untapped Merfolk you control. Put a +1/+1 counter on each Merfolk you control. All of those are really great abilities for us, especially the +1/+1 counters on all of our Merfolk we control, because this is a straight up Merfolk deck and we're going to go super wide with that game plan. But of course, before we get into the full deck list today, make sure to like the video if you like it, subscribe to the channel for more content just like this, and make sure to hit that notification bell to know when we upload videos on the channel. Spoilers, it's a lot. So if you guys aren't aware yet, Brawl is a singleton format, which means we can only have one copy of each card in the deck list. Brawl is a 60 card singleton format, so it's kind of like Commander in that we have a commander like legendary creature here, Kumena, but we also have a smaller deck list of 60 cards, which means we can kind of play more like a standard variant on this format. In fact, Brawl is actually only pulling cards from the standard format. And luckily for us, there are enough Merfolk in the standard format at the moment to actually facilitate a Kumena Tyrant of Orazca deck. There's actually some Merfolk coming in Dominaria as well, and we'll talk about those in a later build probably, but right now, Kumena is actually looking really spicy for a Brawl deck list. So let's get right into it, guys. We have the full layout right here for us. Kind of gotta go through it, card by card, but I kind of wanted to show, all the cards in particular slots. So we have early game creatures here, starting off with Jade Bearer. This is a 1-mana creature. It's a 1/1. When Jade Bearer enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on another target Merfolk you control. So great slot for us there, great early game advantage. Although this doesn't want to be the first card we want to play. Most likely the first card we want to play is a Kumena Speaker. This is a 1 green mana 1/1. It gets +1/+1 if we control an island, as well as having another Merfolk on the battlefield. So this is a 2/2 for 1 mana, not bad. And if the Jade Bearer comes on the battlefield, it becomes a 3/3 as well. Next card that's really great for us is the Deeproot Champion. It's a 2-mana 1/1. Whenever we cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on the Deeproot Champion. We don't have that many. We actually have only 11 non-creature spells in the entire deck list here, so that's not quite as much as I would hope for the Deeproot Champion. However, Deeproot Champion is still a great Merfolk Shaman for us, and it can hopefully get us to go wide as well. Next up, we have Deeproot Elite. This is more the card we want instead of the Champion here. It's a 2-mana 1/1. Whenever another Merfolk enters a battlefield under your control, it's enters, not cast. Put a +1/+1 counter on target Merfolk you control. So very good for us, very aggressive. If we get this on turn 2 and we kind of ramp into our other Merfolk, this card can go wild insanely quickly. Next up for us is just a fantastic attacker. This is Deeproot Warrior. It's a 2-mana 2/2. Whenever it becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn, which means it's a 3/3 when it comes in and starts to get blocked. So this is actually very good for us as well. Putting counters on this with the Jade Bearer and the Deeproot Elite is also a fantastic strategy too. Next up for us, we have a card to hopefully get us through some mana here, because this is a singleton format. We can't have 4 Botanical Sanctums, 4 Evolving Wilds, things like that. We can only have 1 of each, as well as just multiples on basic lands. But Merfolk Branchwalker is a 2-mana 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, we get to explore, which means reveal the top card of your library, put that card into your hand if it's a land, otherwise put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, then put that card back on top or put it into your graveyard. So it kind of gives us some good filtering options here, as well as just drawing us a free card if it's a land, so that's awesome. Moving up more to our lords in the deck, we have Merfolk Mistbinder. This is a 2-mana 2/2 Merfolk Shaman. Other Merfolk you control get +1/+1. Very simple, very straightforward, very powerful when we have 24 creatures in the deck like this one. And of course, another lord for us, we actually have Metallic Mimic. It's not a Merfolk initially, but it is a 2/2 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, we can choose a creature type, so we're going to choose Merfolk here. And when the chosen creature type enters the battlefield, it gets an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So think about if the Metallic Mimic and the Deeproot Elite are on the battlefield, those are going to get 2 +1/+1 counters on it. That's ridiculous. That's very powerful, and we want to hit that on the battlefield as quickly as possible. Moving on to some more unblockable damage, we actually have River Sneak here. This is a 2-mana 1/1. It can't be blocked, and whenever a Merfolk enters the battlefield under our control, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So keep in mind, we have 24 creatures in the deck. We're going to have a lot of ways to play multiple Merfolk in a single turn. River Sneak's going to get probably +1, +2, +3, maybe even a single turn, and attacking out for 3, 4, maybe even 5 points of damage if we're that lucky. And the last one here is kind of help us throughout the curve here, since this is a singleton. This is Silvergear Adept. This is a 2-mana 2/1. As an additional cost to cast Silvergear Adept, reveal a merfolk card from your hand or play 3 colorless mana. We don't want to pay that 3 colorless, we just want to, you know, show a merfolk in our hand. Preferably not a merfolk that's actually of like any importance, like we want to show a Jade Bearer or a Kumena Speaker. We don't want to show like a merfolk Mistbinder or a Deeproot Elite. If opponent has any kind of like hand discard, they want to target those cards instead. So we want to show something that's not as important in our hand, but is still pretty good for the game plan. And of course, when Silvergear Adept enters the battlefield, we draw a card. So again, great cards of being able to kind of get us through the match here. Moving on to some more mid-game powerhouses here, we actually have a Jade Light Ranger. This is a 3-mana 2/1 Merfolk Scout. When it enters the battlefield, it explores, then it explores again. So we actually get 2 explore counters off of this. So we can either get 2 lands or maybe a land and a non-land permanent, making this a 3/2 or maybe even a 4/3. Either way, Jade Light Ranger is a fantastic way for us to filter through our deck, as well as just be a gigantic powerhouse attacking in. Next, of course, we have Jungleborn Pioneer. This is a 3-mana 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, we create a 1/1 blue merfolk with hexproof. This is not bad, but it is very good being able to kind of get ourselves to get Ascend, which is something that will come in handy with our enchantments later in the game. Moving on to some anti-like control or anti-removal, we have Kopala, Warden of Waves. This is a 3-mana legendary merfolk wizard. It's a 2/2, and spells your opponent casts that target a merfolk you control cost 2 colorless more to cast. Abilities your opponent activates that target merfolk you control cost 2 extra to cast as well, or to activate as well. So Kopala here is really great at being able to fend off kind of an opponent's, like, you know, hopefully removal strategy. We want to have this out as soon as possible. This is one of the few, I would say, like protection spells in our entire board state, protecting our entire board state as well. Moving up here, we have Shapers of Nature. This is a 3-mana 3/3. We can pay 4, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, so that's any kind of merfolk for us. We can pay 2, remove a +1/+1 counter from that creature you control, and draw a card. So this is a great way for us to get some actual filtering in our deck, drawing some extra cards, getting some card advantage, as well as making our board even bigger. So Shapers of Nature is just a fantastic card overall. It's also a 3/3, just base 3-mana 3/3, and that's pretty good too. Next up, we have some more protection actually. We have Swift Warden here. It's a 3-mana 3/3 with Flash. When it enters the battlefield, and target merfolk we control gains hexproof until end of turn. So if an opponent has like Unlicensed Disintegration, or if they have like a Vraska's Contempt or something like that for the Kumena itself, we want to bring in Swift Warden and protect that creature at all costs. Also keep in mind it's an enter the battlefield ability, which means that even if they do kill the Swift Warden when it enters the battlefield, the creature still gets the hexproof trigger, which is nice. Moving on to some higher end Explore, we have Tishana's Wayfinder, a 3-mana 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, it explores, so it can be a 3/3 or just give me a 2/2 and draw us a card, so that's fine too. Another card that's really great for us though is Vinekeeper Mystic. This is a 3-mana 1/3. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target merfolk you control, so it could be the Vinekeeper itself and another creature, or 2 other creatures that aren't the Vinekeeper Mystic itself, but being a 1/4 is not bad for 3 mana either. Excuse me, a 2/4 for 3 mana is not bad either. That's pretty good there too. Next up, for some nice tempo gain, we have Water Trap Weaver, a 3-mana 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, tap an opponent's creature they control, and that creature doesn't untap during the next untap step. So kind of locks a creature into place for a couple turns. Very nice for us, especially if we're trying to get as much damage as possible. Keep in mind, in Brawl, opponents actually have 30 life instead of 20 life, so we want to be attacking out as quickly as possible. Water Trap Weaver is going to help us do that. Another card that's going to help us do that is Jade Guardian here. So it's a 4-mana 2/2 with hexproof, and when it comes to the battlefield, it gives a +1/+1 counter on a target merfolk we control. The best part of this card, of course, is that it's hexproof, so an opponent's kind of removal spells, that means that they cannot target this big creature here. They need to have a board wipe, or they need to have, like, you know, Settle the Wreckage or something like that in order to handle Jade Guardian, or maybe just trade up the old-fashioned way in combat. And help us get these nice mid-game powerhouses, we have cards like Riverwide's Augur. It's a 4-mana 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, we draw 3 cards, then we put 2 cards from our hand on top of the library in any order. So this is basically like a cool brainstorm for 4, but it's also on a 2/2 body, which is not bad either. I really do appreciate this card a lot. It really does help us kind of filter and get into some huge bombs in the mid to late game. Speaking of our closers here, we have the closers. This is Forerunner of Heralds here. It's a 4-mana 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a merfolk card, reveal it, then shuffle your library and place that card on top of it. So that means that our next turn will draw into that creature, which is awesome. Whenever another merfolk enters the battlefield under our control, we put a +1/+1 counter on Forerunner of the Heralds. So this is one of those cards that kind of like can secretly become a huge behemoth in the mid to late game here. It's a 3/2 that become a 4/3, 5/4, and so on. It becomes a monster to deal with an opponent. And the best part, it can actually get us out a large creature or a great creature, just like Herald of the Secret Streams here. They have a really nice synergy with one another. It's a 4-mana 2/3. Creatures you control, the +1/+1 counters on them can't be blocked. So have a Forerunner on the battlefield, grab a Herald of Secret Streams on the top of the library, draw into that, next turn play this, Forerunner gets a +1/+1 counter, and now it's an unblockable 4/3 creature. That is just That's just so spicy. It's perfect. It's just so synergistic within this deck here. Moving on to some other great cards for us. We have Seafloor Oracle. This is a 4-mana 2/3. Whenever a Merfolk you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So again, we have a lot of unblockable stuff. We have things that can make things unblockable, like Herald of Secret Streams here. So if we do get to do some combat damage to an opponent, we're going to be drawing extra cards as well. And that's all money for us right there. That's really, really great for us and giving us a lot of momentum pushing forward, hopefully kind of overwhelming our opponent with, you know, having constant gas in our hand. And the last card in here that's a creature for us is Tempest Caller. This card's going to win you more games than you think. This is a 4-mana 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, tap all creatures target opponent controls. So in Commander and now in Brawl, of course, there's going to be a lot of really grindy matches where you have a large board state. Tempest Caller's going to come in here and just tap everything down and say, okay, you're home free. Just get in for all attacks. More often than not, a Tempest Caller play is going to close out a match for you and make sure that you actually bring home that GG. So what do we have for utility? What do we have for spells? Let's move on to those really quickly here. We have first up Chart a Course. This is a 2-mana draw 2 cards, discard a card unless we attack with a creature this turn. So Chart a Course is very good for us. A main phase 2 play, going to be able to draw 2 cards. Great on turn 3 or 4, especially if we're running out of cards in our hand really quickly. Next up for us though, for some extra removal, we actually have Naturalize here. It's a 2-mana instant, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So there's going to be a lot of weird enchantments on the battlefield since this is a Brawl format. It's a lot wider and a lot more slow than you think it's going to be. This is also a great way for us to remove any artifacts as well. Naturalize is an obvious include here in the main board. Next up here for us, we have River Herald's Boom. This is going to be a great card for us to kind of hopefully trade with an opponent. This is a 2-mana instant, put target +1/+1 counter on creature you control, and another +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target Merfolk. So the best thing about this is we can actually put 2 +1/+1 counters on the same creature if it's a Merfolk, and since our entire deck is Merfolks, this card is just gravy. And the last card in here with spells, we have Crushing Canopy, a 3-mana instant, choose one, destroy target creature with flying, or destroy target enchantment. I like this because it gives us kind of variance. I didn't want to put just Plummet in here. I do think this card is a bit more flexible in giving us 2 types of removal. Moving on to some more enchantments and artifacts here. We actually have artifacts first. Let's go to Renegade Map. We have a 60-card singleton deck, so we want to make sure that we're actually getting as much mana as possible. I included 3 different ways for us to get some extra mana here. We have Renegade Map, a 1-mana artifact. Renegade Map enters the battlefield tapped, and the next turn we can sacrifice it and search our library for a land card, put it into our hand, then shuffle our library. So a great way for us to kind of hopefully get that extra blue mana or extra green mana if we need it for that Jade Light Ranger, excuse me. Moving on to another basic card here, we have Traveler's Amulet, a 1-mana artifact. We can pay another 1, sacrifice it, and again do the same thing, search our library for a basic land, reveal it, put it into our hand, and shuffle our library. So we have actually 17 lands that are basic in the actual deck list here, and Traveler's Amulet is going to be useful for us in that regard. Moving on to another great card for us, we actually have Treasure Map. This is especially great for us because it gives us the ability to scry on our opponent's incept. This is a 2-mana artifact, pay 1, scry 1, then put a landmark counter on the treasure map, and if there are 3 or more, we get to remove those, flip the treasure map, it turns into a land, and we get 3 treasure tokens, which actually can help us kind of ramp a little bit if we need to, but more often than not, we're just going to sacrifice those because the land can turn into a sacrifice a treasure, draw a card, and that's exactly what we want to do. Again, this deck is all about card advantage and going really quickly, and Treasure Map is going to help us do that. Moving on to some enchantments, though, that are kind of really spicy for us. We have Deeproot Waters. This is a card that's barely playable, you know, like tier 2, tier 3 standard. In Brawl, this card is insanity. We have 24 creatures in the deck, so this card is going to come in handy a lot. This is a 3-mana enchantment. Whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, create a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token with hexproof. Again, it has hexproof, so an opponent cannot spot removal it. They're going to have to remove it with, you know, either board wiping or just straight up combat damage. Next up, I have another spicy card here. This is actually Hadana's Climb, a 3-mana legendary enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then if that creature has 3 or more counters on it, transform Hadana's Climb. So this is actually just fantastic as a simple 3-mana enchantment here because it can put a +1/+1 counter on basically our entire board state eventually, which is really nice. But when it does flip, it does turn into Winged Temple of Orazca, and we can add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool. We can also pay 3 mana and tap it. Target creature you control gains flying and gets X+X, where X is its power, basically doubling its power and getting flying. So thanks to Merfolks not having any sort of flying at all, Winged Temple of Orazca is going to be a super ace in the hole and hopefully close out a match for us. Another great way to get into damage here is actually Aquatic Incursion, a 4-mana enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, it gives us 2 1/1 with hexproof, which is very, very good, but it also has a secondary ability where we pay 4 mana. Target Merfolk can't be blocked this turn. This card is amazing. This card is going to win you matches. This card is ridiculous. And the last enchantment here for us is actually one I talked about for the Send. This is a 4-mana Kumena's Awakening enchantment. With a Send, of course, that means if you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing until the rest of the game. And at the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws a card. If you have the City's Blessing, instead only you draw a card. So we actually get to draw 2 cards for 4 mana if we have the City's Blessing, which we will, hopefully, by turn 4 or 5, thanks to our low mana curve, thanks to our low creature curve, and having a lot of creatures on the battlefield, thanks to things like Deep Root Waters and all that kind of stuff, Kumena's Awakening is just straight value forever and ever. I honestly do think that this card is going to be the way you're going to win the match more often than not as well. There's just so much good value in the Merfolk list here. Moving on to the land base really quickly, we have, of course, Botanical Sanctum, just a great fast land for us, tapping for green or blue. Then we have Hashep Oasis, being able to hopefully sack itself, give a creature +3/+3 into end of turn. I wish it gave it trample, but it does not. Just +3/+3 into end of turn. So just a great card for us. Desert of the Mindful, which is a tap land that coming in, adding blue to our mana pool, but we can also pay to and cycle it, which is nice, especially in a singleton format like this. We also have Desert of the Indomitable, which is another card for us, being able to cycle, come in tap, and also tap for green mana. Then we have Unclaimed Territory, because we have, a full Merfolk deck list here. We can tap this and add any color mana to our mana pool, only to spend on Merfolk spells. So the actual enchantments, spells, and artifacts, stuff like that, well, artifacts is colorless, but you know what I'm saying. Those cards don't actually benefit from Unclaimed Territory, but our creature curve does. Next up, for some actual flip land hate, we have Field of Ruin here, being able to hopefully get rid of a flipped Winged Temple of Orazca on our opponent's side of the field, or maybe even a Legion's Landing or something like that. And when it does get sacrificed to kill another land for us, we actually can get another land and bring it into the battlefield untapped, which is very good too. And the last card besides basic lands here is just a simple Evolving Wilds. Tap it, sack it, hunt for a land, put it on the battlefield, tapped. Very nice. And that just leaves 8 islands and 9 forests, and that is the full 60 on this Kumena Tyrant of Orazca Brawl deck. Let's go the full layout here, guys. On MTG Traders, this is coming to a whopping 20 tickets. This deck is super cheap, thanks to Kumena kind of dropping in price in recent days. And now in paper, if you want to build this yourself, this is only 63 bucks as well. This deck can go for miles. It's super powerful. I don't know why it's not higher right now. It's ridiculous. If you guys want to get into a Merfolk Brawl deck, now would be the time. Go for it. But of course, that is all I have to say for the video, guys. Let me know what you think. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you have any suggestions for it? Please let me know in the comments down below. Like the video if you like it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.